This is the Brigadier General, commander of Edwards Air Force Base on May 7th. Watch this.
Chinese malware on all the SCADA systems that control electric power communications. The first indication that we have that the invasion of Taiwan has started is probably that the lights go out and that the cellular network doesn't work anymore. If it did work and you could still log into your bank account, you might not actually see anything because all the records might be scrambled. It might be confusing. There's a way to actually attack us without attacking us. Next slide. And so just as an indication, it wouldn't be that easy. So if you remember that blackout in 2003 that affected the entire Northeast, and so we're talking about the Eastern Interconnect, there's 3 different regions. When you put current down wires, they tend to sag. So during the summertime when the wind's not blowing, the electrical wires can sag. And if it turns out that there's trees there and they sag into a tree, you can actually short out a line. So that actually happened in Ohio. This little line going up to Cleveland sagged into the line. So that one came off, was kicked offline because it shorted out. Not a big deal, pretty resilient, right? But then the next one sagged because it was carrying more current. It kicked offline, so now more current is flowing this way. That one sagged, that one sagged. Now all of this power is flowing just from there. That actually sets off a chain reaction of reactive power being out of sync with the rest of the grid and leads to a rapid domino effect of the entire grid going down. It's fairly balanced, finely balanced all the time. And if you disrupt it, the entire system can collapse. And that's exactly what happened. Ultimately, 55 million people lost power. 100 people died during this from the power loss, and it was only for a couple hours. Think about if the electrical grid goes down for 6 months, because that could happen. Now, the system's not as fragile as it was in 2003, but that was a tree. That was just a natural, warm summer day. Everybody turned their air conditioners on. The line's going. Now, we don't have a lot of trees around here, but there is Chinese malware in the SCADA systems on our grid. They are in all of our critical infrastructure. Next slide. So, China has more cyber operators than the rest of the world combined. There was an article in The Economist last week, Tracking the Hacking, is what it's titled, that overviews all of the operations that China's done everywhere that they are, and by a person for person. In fact, earlier, it was actually at the start of March, we're now in April, but we just indicted 12 named People's Liberation Army cyber operators. We indicted them in federal court. Now, of course, they're living in China, so unless they ever come here, we're probably never actually going to. But we've identified them. Go ahead and Bill for me. So this is a list since 2024 of all the cyber attacks, named cyber attacks, known cyber attacks from China, originating from China.
All right, let's hold right there.
The designation that we use.
I mean, he's got a lot of great stuff. I thought he said 30 people died. Yes. 100 people died when the power went down in New York in the Northeast there in summer of 2003, and I remember it well. When it went down, didn't go down very long, and 100 people died. Imagine, as you said, if it went down for weeks or months. What do you make of that, Commander, warning about this? This was May 7th. By the way, this was before we had the drone attack coming from Ukraine onto the plains of Russia. So what if China says, hey, we could do some drone attacks on the United States and some of their planes, or we could use a Club K cargo system that's $10 million that I've talked about for years, and in my documentary Siege or Sabotage. We could use those. I mean, there's so many things they could use. But what do you make of what this general's warning about May 7th?
Well, I think the military are well aware of the threats we're facing, but these messages are very unpopular for politicians to carry. You know, nobody wants to hear this stuff. So these military guys are very, very frustrated, and it's starting to break through now because the threats are so darn critical. And we saw exactly, as you said, what the Ukrainians did with a few $1,000s worth of drones. Well, we've got planes stacked up in airports all over America. submarines in port, ships in port, critical infrastructure. How many thousands of Chinese containers come into this country every single day? How do you know? We already know they've been smuggling AK-47s into the country for gangs. We know they've been smuggling fentanyl. Why can't they smuggle a few drones in to attack critical infrastructure at the right time? Of course they can.
Of course they can.
They're planning to. Of course they will. And the only thing that's going to stop them is if the US goes on to a threat, basically mobilizes the whole security apparatus of the country to guard against China, and we start sending the Chinese nationals home, start arresting Chinese spies, we know who they are, and start taking a hard line with China, a total decoupling from China. That's the only thing that's going to save us here.